Thank you for joining us on this sunny, beautiful day, at least in Portland. We're excited to talk about right-sizing your life with ease today. My name is Whitney Zeigler. I'm the founder and CEO of Big Rocks Organizing, and I'm honored to present and co-present with you today. We have Amy McMahon as a special guest. Amy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Amy, and I'm a realtor with Windermere Realty Trust, and I'm also a huge organization junkie. I have aspirations to look like, the Home Edit or different TV shows. But in my job and in my personal life, I just feel like if I'm organized, then everything else works better. And I'm not really that great at doing it by myself. So I'd love to have people kind of come along beside me, whether it's a girlfriend helping me in my closet, or I've used Big Rocks quite a few times. I recently have moved 3 times in the last 5 years. And after leaving my house of 21 years where I had way too much stuff, I was like, that's enough. I only want experiences. I don't want things anymore. So anyway, I thought this would be super fun. I'm always have clients that are asking, like, do you know any great organizers, or what do you do? And it's such a privilege to be able to get to work with people and help them kind of figure out what they need to do and what they want that next move to look and feel like, and what's really important to them. So I think it's just a great opportunity to kind of ask yourselves, what do you love and what do you want to live like? So thank you for letting me do this, because I think what you guys do is amazing.
Thank you so much, Amy. We're honored to co-present this event with you today. So with that, I will jump in. So I guess the format for today, or Andrea, do you want to talk about this part and introduce yourself really briefly?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Andrea Thompson. I work for Whitney. I've been working for her for about 1.5 years after 1,000 years in the corporate world. And it is so refreshing to work for such a wonderful person and to feel like I'm directly hands-on helping people. It's just been an amazing experience. Today, we're going to go through some categories of organizing that we all struggle with. It's actually going to be a little show and tell, so it's going to be kind of fun, I hope. After we've gone through our little song and dance thing, we have a Q&A session, so feel free to ask anything at that point. We will have a list of all the organizational categories that you can refer to. And at the end of the presentation, we will send out at some point, we will send out the whole presentation, because there's actually more to it than we may get to today. So it's full of tips and ideas, and we hope it's very helpful and fun.
We do have a slideshow that we'll send out, but because we're going to be pulling objects out of a mystery box, it's hard to show the slides and the box at the same time. So if you are a visual person, strongly visual, let us know, and maybe we could try to hop back and forth, but we also didn't want to make people seasick either. So with that, we'll start off with a few slides and then get to our box. So we met the lovely Amy. A little bit about Big Rocks Organizing. I founded it. This is actually, we're going into our 9th year. We're a very small local company. We are LGBTQIA plus owned. We specialize in home organizing, right-sizing, estate clearouts, and move management. And our motto, our tagline is to help you make space for what truly matters. And we do that in a gentle, professional, yet efficient way. And there we go.
And today we're going to talk about organizing. And anytime you're organizing, the first place to start is with right sizing. And that's deciding what you're going to keep, what really matters, and letting the rest go. It's definitely a process, but we find it's a very empowering process. And that's why we call it right sizing, not downsizing, because you're not firing your things. You're just giving them different homes. So as we said, we'll be talking about all these things, and then we'll have a big general Q&A session and ask as many questions as you want. Okay, these things are weighing you down. Let's take a look at some of those weighty things. This is the mystery box. I can't see myself, so I don't know if you can see this box.
We can see the box.
Okay, you can see the box. This is the box that has all those things that you can't just throw out. It's sitting in your attic or your closet or your garage or your basement. And chances are you have more than one of these boxes. So we're gonna take a look in the box and see what we can do with what's in the box.
All right, let's see what's in there first.
Okay, 1 second. First, we have papers.
Oh, good. The paper chase.
Lots and lots of papers, more papers.
Does anybody have
Not very
papers?
many papers, papers.
See a lot of hands going up. So some tips for sorting your paper piles are to pre-sort them into categories that make sense for you. There's no right or wrong, there's no absolute categories, but I would limit it to 5 so that it's not overwhelming. So think about putting those categories as big buckets. And we're not going to get down into the weeds. We're going to fly at 10,000 feet when we're creating those categories. So you'll sort your papers into each of those 5 categories. Toss out anything that you know you'll never look at again. We look at 20% of the papers or the documents that we keep, yet we still hold on to far too much. All of us do. So be really ruthless with your papers. And oftentimes it gets down to that, the final 20%, those are the taxes you're keeping, the sentimental stuff, the stuff that's harder to let go of. So we can go into more depth about that later if you have specific questions. Put each category of paper into its own file folder, and then put the folders in a basket so that you have one central hub for your papers to land. We don't want to have piles all over the house. It's really easy for things to get lost that way. And how many hours do you spend looking for a specific receipt so you can return something to the store? Or maybe you're looking for that bill that you need to pay soon, something like that. So if you have one central basket, one central location, you can find what you need. A calendar time for yourself, whether you have a paper calendar or an electronic one, to go through your paper piles. And we do have a blog that has more detailed tips on how to sort paper, and then how to sort sentimental items or sentimental papers as well. But for those things, you'll have some papers that are action items that are red hot, things to do right now. So you'll want to start there and then go through the other paper piles as urgent as whatever their urgency is. For magazines, we recommend keeping only the 2 most recent issues. If a 3rd one arrives and you haven't read the first 2, maybe let the older one go and just keep 2 at a time. For newspapers, maybe limit yourself to 1 week's worth of papers. Oftentimes we have clients, like I myself am an information junkie, and I want to hold on to things thinking I'm going to read that someday. There's some great articles I'm interested in. There's a lot of great information, but realistically, how long would it take you to read through that stack of 25 magazines, for example? Are we really going to get around to it? We've had clients who've had entire rooms full of paper, and it would take you decades to read all of the contents in that room. And there's other things that you probably want to make space in your life to do. A final tip, don't let the junk mail hit the paper pile. Toss it before it even gets there. So when I pick up my mail from the mailbox, I'm actually sorting through it as I walk back to my house, and put some in the recycling bin, and then run some through the shredder, and very little hits my basket of papers. So Andrea, do you want to add anything about papers?
No, just that the fewer you have, the better off you are. Okay, our next category we kind of call the no thanks things. And these are things that your family doesn't want to inherit. Maybe it's things that you didn't want to inherit and now you're stuck with them. For example, I have this set of china. It's Christmas china. It's very fancy. It's got a gold rim, and it has, I think, about 1,000 pieces. My mother-in-law gave it to us. I don't particularly like it, but I don't want to just throw it away. My kids don't want it, so I'm kind of stuck with it. I mean, our idea of Christmas dinner is we do bagels, so I don't need a fancy china set for it. So what do you do with the things that your family doesn't want to inherit, your kids don't want them? You can ask one last time. Try to do it without instilling too much guilt on them. And if you get no takers, consider donating it to charity. Charity is always a good way to get rid of things rather than throwing them in the landfill. And people will really appreciate these things. You could also try consignment companies, especially if you have something valuable or unique or some antique thing. Check out consignment and see if there's interest there. And if you decide, well, I really do love this china set or whatever, I don't have room to store it, you can always just keep one piece of it. Just keep a teacup and a saucer and put it someplace where you can see it. And that'll remind you of the person who gave it to you, and you can kind of let the rest go. There are also options like Facebook Marketplace or a local Buy Nothing Facebook group that will sell, where you can sell or give away items. I've actually had a lot of success with this. Some other people we were just discussing have not had as much success, but it's worth trying something. You know, anything is better than putting it into a landfill. All right, shall we talk about the big stuff, Whitney?
Yes, let's talk about the BBF.
Okay. And BBF stands for Big Brown Furniture, like
Yes.
this. It's a facsimile. It's a doll bed.
It's a doll bed, but it's representing all of the big brown furniture in our homes that is maybe oversized. It's between the 1970s and now, or the 2010s, and maybe it doesn't fit our lifestyle anymore. Maybe we're right-sizing and moving to a smaller home, and this furniture is not going to fit anymore, but our family doesn't want it. Goodwill is inundated. A lot of nonprofits are inundated. So what do we do with this big brown furniture? So that can be a little tricky, but we do have a local furniture bank. So think of your food bank for feeding folks in our community who are hungry. The furniture bank is a nonprofit called Community Warehouse, and they help folks who are starting over, whether it's fire, flood, maybe they're fleeing domestic violence, maybe they are refugees and they're starting over in our community. So you can consider donating to them. We are a furniture forward partner with Community Warehouse, and they waive their pickup fee for our clients. So we're happy to partner with you to get furniture into the homes of people who can use it. They do have some criteria though, so check out their website for that. And then another idea, of course, there's always Goodwill too, but you may be able to consign certain pieces. You might have some that are antique or some that do have value that are maybe more unique, that are very well made and well preserved. The heavy, ornate, dark brown furniture and red furniture that we grew up with is stuff that does not sell very well, unfortunately, but charities will often take it. The one thing we're finding right now, though, that the death knell is sounding for are china hutches. Even Goodwill and Habitat for Humanity have been rejecting china hutches that we have recently attempted to donate on behalf of our clients. I think there's little demand. Younger generations are not wanting them, and there's so many folks right-sizing right now that there's nowhere for all of the china hutches to go. So I just want to mentally prepare you, if you love your china hutch, that this might be a hard item to find a home for. Andrea, is there anything you'd like to add about BBF or big brown furniture?
No, it's my brother inherited these end tables from my grandmother, these octagonal things, and we used to call them the coffins, and they were just awful. And she actually gave them to him before she died, and he had to hang on to them until she died because she would always check where are the tables, where are the tables. So they always had to be out on prominent display, and they were the most ugly things ever.
That's tough.
Yeah.
That's hard. It is hard with gifts, and we can talk more about that later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We also want to talk about sentimental clutter. These are things that it's very hard to say goodbye to things like, this is just a representative sample. I actually have stacks and stacks of letters from my parents to me when I was in college. I have kids' artwork and so on. We've also, we have other things that are sentimental but incredibly ugly. This was from my great aunt when I first moved to New York City. She gave me a crock pot that I had no use for, but here I am at age 67, I still have it. So obviously I'm not that great about getting rid of sentimental clutter because it does weigh you down. Even though you love it, you don't have space for it. And one thing to think about is if the item was a gift, the person who gave it to you wouldn't want you to be burdened by it. And they would probably be okay with you letting it go. So you can gently move it out of your life. You can also think about whether somebody needs it more than you and donate it. If I didn't think that crock pot might electrocute somebody, I would donate it. And if you have items sitting in your attic or your basement and you haven't looked at them for months or years, you could probably let it go without feeling any guilt about it. It won't change your life. And it's, as I keep saying to my kids, it's just stuff. Yes, it has sentimental attachments, but those memories will not go away if the items do. And you can also keep the things that really matter to you. And when you have fewer of them, you have more emotional and physical space to enjoy them. So it's a tough category, and it takes a long time to get through things. It can be very emotional and very difficult, but it also can be done. And it often helps to have a neutral third party, a friend or other family member or somebody like Whitney, who can gently help you let go of things that have been taking up too much emotional space.
Thank you, Andrea. I'm wondering what's next in your mystery box.
Next is photo clutter.
Does
Would you like
anybody
me to?
have thousands of photos that you don't know what to do with, whether they're
Yeah.
digital or physical
I have photos.
Maybe you
I
don't
got-
know who's in the photos.
I got photos. That's my grandfather. I don't know who this bride is. I don't know how she got in my house, but there she is. And there are just many more photos like that.
Yeah, photos are part of that sentimental clutter that they can be a bit tricky. We do recommend waiting for a rainy day like today. Maybe not the most motivating day to work on indoor stuff like photos. But a good place to start is just tossing all the duplicates, anything that's blurry, anything with people you don't recognize anymore. Or maybe you have a bunch of landscape photos from trips you've gone on and you've got 100 pictures of the Eiffel Tower. Can you narrow that down to the best 2 shots, for example? Some of the other things you can, and there's no wrong or right way to sort them. You can do them chronologically or by events. You can do them by person, by location. There's so many different ways to sort photographs. I do recommend wearing gloves, whether they're nitrile gloves or cotton gloves, because the oil from our fingers can damage photographs. Also, they have things called photo pencils, so you can make notes on the back of them without damaging the photo. My mother-in-law took a Sharpie and started writing people's names on the front of all these black and white photographs. And like, bless her heart, she was like, I think 99 when she started doing this. Then she wanted to label things for future generations, but she kind of ruined the photographs at the same time, and we didn't have the negatives to be able to reprint any of them. So We do have a session that we recorded last year that we did with the family archivists who are professional photo organizers, and they gave a lot of great tips and tricks. So encourage you to check out that previous recording and the previous blog written by one of our team members, Karin, who organized photographs with her grandma. Also, storing them in a photo safe box is important. A lot of us have those sticky photo albums with the clear film, and as they age, you know, the background gets kind of yellow. And those albums are not archival safe, and the photographs will essentially disintegrate over time. So if you do want to preserve them for future generations, I do recommend using products that are acid-free, lignin-free, and that are archive quality. And then, better yet, you can even scan your photos so that they're safe if there is a natural disaster, or you can share them with multiple family members if they're scanned. And there's different photo scanning software and services, and we're happy to answer questions and make recommendations. The basics for photo organizing are the ABCs, sorting your photos into ABCs. So A is awesome. Those are your pictures that are the best of the best. B stands for better. Those are second best. You know, they're pretty good. They're worth keeping. And the C is for cut. Those are the blurry ones, the people you don't know, the landscape photos, all of those. So hopefully that'll help get you started.
All right, and the next category we're moving on to are collections. A lot of people collect things. In my house for a while, my husband was, remember these? Oh, look, a tiger. Oh, look, a tiger again. Oh, elephants. He collected Viewmasters along with all the little slide things that come with them. This is just a fraction of how many were sitting in a closet. We've been married 33 years. I never ever saw him use them. So I asked him if he could kind of right size some of them, which he kindly did. But the point is, collecting is fun, but the collection can kind of start to take over your space sometimes. And how many more of these things do you need? I think at some point you have to say, okay, I have enough. I need to cut some down. And I'm just going to sort through and keep the ones that I really, really love. And then I'm going to donate or sell the rest. And it's nice to be able to actually see your collection if you only have 10 things out as opposed to 100. You know, it gives you more breathing room, which is nice. You can also think about whether a friend or a relative might enjoy sharing your collection. My husband actually passed on his Viewmaster to a nephew who had never seen these before because, you know, he was born in the 2000s, and the kid really loves them. So now it's their problem. And if you find that you still have too many collection pieces after you've sorted through your collection, you can always store some of the items away and rotate them in periodically. And that way you see them again when you put out something that you haven't looked at for a while. So that's kind of a nice way to honor your collection without being completely suffocated by it.
Nice. I'm curious how much your husband right-sized his collection of the viewfinder.
That's pretty much all that's left. One Viewmaster and a tiny little stack.
Wow.
Yeah, but don't forget, he was I'm going to save 20 years of bank statements up in the attic. So he's still got a way to go.
There's 274 bank statements in your attic.
Right.
Right. What do we have next in our mystery box?
Oh, next we have crafty clutter. And these are the creative hobbies that can take over your home, can take over your cabinets, can take over your craft room, you know, if you're lucky enough to have one, or they just take over everything. So
Yes. And anybody have craft supplies in their house? We all do, right? Our team recently, we did an estate clear out, and the mom was a very big quilter, but we had 5 or 6 large truckloads of fabric. You probably could have quilted the entire state of Oregon. We donated all of this fabric to a local nonprofit called Reclaim It. They were happy to have, I think their employees maybe cried at the last truckload we dropped off because it was so much. But sometimes our crafts, we can get carried away, and it just takes over our lives, as you were saying with collections. I think craft supplies and school supplies can kind of be the same thing. So also it's a little bit tricky to let go, because I think we all have aspirations, and it can be tied to our identity too. Or maybe we did a hobby with someone that we loved. Maybe we sewed or knitted with our mom or a grandma, and now this person is gone. And maybe we don't enjoy doing this activity anymore, and we need to give ourselves permission to let go, or permission to give these materials to somebody who will actually use them and enjoy them. I might have aspirations to be a painter or a photographer, or when I'm less busy, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. But what fits your lifestyle right now? What are you interested in doing right now? Could you, if you really wanted to, run out and replace some of those supplies if you needed to, rather than keeping them just in case? So consider that. Consider just making room for who you are right now, and for accepting that. Some other tips: making promises to yourself that you're going to finish projects that you start before you buy supplies for another one. I know a lot of us are guilty of having 20 projects going at once. Like, definitely guilty. And try to be creative about using the supplies you already have, or maybe organizing them so you can find what you have, so you don't run out and buy a fifth stapler, for example, or whatever it might be. Be ruthless, weed out the supplies that you're not using right now, donate them to charity so others can enjoy them. And just be really honest with yourself. Is this who I am right now? Am I using these things right now? And give yourself permission to let go of those things that don't serve you right now.
Thanks, Whitney.
Yeah.
Our next category is something that we were actually just talking about before this presentation got started. And this is about clothing that no longer works for you. When you can't shut your closet because there's too many clothes in it. Well, this is part of the problem, for me at least, keeping around things that do not fit my lifestyle anymore. Get a load of these. Yeah, I'm a sneakers and sweatshirt girl. These don't work for me anymore. And you may find the same thing. You may also find, if you're like me, that in the last 10 years or so with the pandemic, that your weight has fluctuated. I've got everything from size 4 to size 12 in my closet, and only about 2 things actually fit. So what you just need to do is dive in, take everything out of your closet, throw it on your bed, and do a little fashion show for yourself. Try things on, and don't be hypercritical the way we tend to be, but just look at it and think, does this fit okay? Does it make me happy? Do I look good in it? Does it make me feel confident? And if it does, great. If it doesn't, get rid of it. And there are a number of ways to get rid of clothing. You can always donate it to Goodwill, or if it's something really nice, maybe some, work clothes, you can take it to a consignment shop. There's also a resource called Rose Haven, and we work with them. We support them. It's a great organization, and the clothes go directly to women in need. It's only
Here, yes.
Yes, yeah, they're great. And they're always so appreciative to have stuff from us. So again, that's Rose Haven. They're terrific. So after you've right-sized, you're in a good place. You've probably gotten rid of half your clothes, because in reality, we only wear 20% of our clothes 80% of the time. So then you put everything back. And what we do when we're doing closets is we sort by type. For instance, we'll hang all the blouses together, then we'll hang the pants, then we'll hang the skirts, the dresses, whatever. And when we're feeling really fancy, we put things in rainbow order, which makes it easy to say, oh yeah, I want to wear a blue blouse today. And you just go to your little blue section and you pull it out, but you basically just, whatever works for you is a good thing to do. Any other thoughts on closets, Whitney?
Just wanted to put a plug in for the Assistance League of Greater Portland as well as another nonprofit to donate
Yes.
um,
Yes.
clothing that's in good shape too. So actually this jumpsuit that I'm wearing right now, I purchased last weekend at Assistance League because I had not bought any new clothing that wasn't work related before COVID. And I have my college reunion coming up at the end of the month. And I thought, I think it's time to
Oh,
get
nice,
some
nice.
new to me clothes. So yeah, this is Banana Republic. It looks brand
That's
new.
amazing.
$20 at the Assistance League, and
Wow.
everything you spend there goes to this nonprofit to benefit programs that they run in our
Oh,
community.
that's
For
great.
foster kids, for
Oh,
survivors of sexual assault. I mean, they do just such great work in the community. So yeah.
oh, and we have a
A
idea
tip
from
from Jess.
Jess. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jess. If you flip your hangers backwards when you hang things back up, after a while you begin to see which clothes you haven't worn for months and months and months, and you can probably get rid of some more of them.
Yes.
Good
I give
tip.
myself a 6-month rule. If I haven't worn it in 6 months,
Yeah.
it needs to move along.
Yeah.
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 And for those of you who maybe feel more sentimentally attached to your clothing, you could put them in kind of a halfway house, like pack them up in a box.
Yeah.
Don't go back into that box within 6 months. Then you just donate it without opening the box again, but just that can work for any type of sentimental item.
Yeah. Yeah. Jane had an earlier comment, which I'd like to read in case people aren't seeing the chat. It says, we're talking about sentimental items, I think. You could sell an item and donate the proceeds to a charity that's dear to the heart of the person who gave you the china. I think that's a really nice idea. I love that.
And question from Jean Harkin in the chat. Yes, it's called the Assistance League of Greater Portland, and it's located on 117th and Beaverton. It's right off of 217 near Canyon Road, and it's in a former grocery store. So they have a consignment side of the store where people can consign jewelry and furniture and really nice things. And then they have the retail side. And then they also have a back room that's kind of the garage sale room where everything's 50% off. So there's a little bit of something for everybody there. But it's really well curated, well organized. It's all volunteer run. And it's a good shopping experience.
Nice.
Yeah.
My last comment on when you do your closet. I think a lot of people have the impulse to run to Target or the Container Store and buy a bunch of storage. Don't do that until after you've right-sized your closet. And then you'll have a much better idea of what you need, and always measure before you run to the store. That's all I have to say about that.
Yes, thank you. Oftentimes our clients are very excited and we run out and we purchase these organizing tools and items in the hopes of getting organized, thinking like this is going to be the solution for me. But it's kind of putting that cart before the horse. And you're right, we need to right size first and know what we need. So that's actually one of the last steps that we do in the organizing process.
Yeah.
Containerize. Yeah. So we have one final category left in our mystery box, and then we'd like to open it up for questions. So
Yeah.
what's our final hurrah?
Our last category is what we call spidery spaces. And those are those just terrifying spaces like attics and garages and basements where things like this live. This is paint. I'm not even sure it's from us. It may be from the previous owners of this house, but yeah, that's our garage.
Yeah, and those spaces can be really daunting because they are often kind of the dumping ground for things that don't have a home. And so they tend to just pile up, and we might not even be able to park our car in the garage or to use that space constructively. So just know that you're not alone in that, and take it in small chunks. Start with something small. Maybe it's a junk drawer, it's one cupboard. You don't have to tackle the whole garage in a day. You're gonna wear yourself out physically and mentally. Bring in a friend or a family member or a professional organizer. Whoever you bring in to support you in the project, make sure that there's someone who's non-judgmental and that they're going to respect the decisions that you make and be helpful to you rather than harmful. Another thing is just you break it down. People say eat the elephant, break the elephant down. And sorry for any vegetarians on the call and vegans, but eat that elephant bite by bite. We'll have to come up with a different metaphor. Sorry. And then just with temperatures too, be aware of it. Maybe you don't want to organize the garage in January or February. Maybe that's more of a spring, fall type thing. If it's 100 degrees outside, we don't want to be working in the attic. And then also just taking proper safety precautions. Are there, maybe the rodents have had a little party in your attic or basement, and we need to have some professionals come in and remediate the situation so that it's safe to work in that area of the home. Maybe there's been a leak and maybe there's some mold, things that need to get cleaned up before it's safe to work there. And also just, staying hydrated and taking frequent breaks. So, anything you wanted to add, Andrea, before we jump into questions?
No, I think those are the most difficult spaces. I don't think I'd ever tackle one of those spaces by myself. I'm so thankful we don't have an attic or a basement in this house, but boy, do we have a garage. Oof.
Well, we would love to hear from you and hear what your questions are. What are you struggling with right now, or what could you use some advice on? And we'll pull from the hive of knowledge here. We've got almost 30 very smart people here who can contribute.
Whitney, I have a question while you're talking about the garage about paint cans.
Mm-hmm.
So I heard that paint stores take paint cans back or not, or what's the deal with paint cans? Either empty or partial.
Yes, and Habitat for Humanity Restore will take them as well. You can also take them to Metro. There's 2 Metro locations. So my understanding is with Habitat, if they're half full or more, you can donate them. And what they do is they mix them together to make new paint colors. So, they put all the yellows together, all the greens, etc. And then people can buy that paint and it's really affordable for them. And I've actually bought some of the used recycled paint myself for projects, and it's worked really well.
Sherwin-Williams also takes paint. It has to be at least half I think it says it gives you directions on the website. I think it has to be either a quarter or half full. And I took back several gallons and they were very gracious about it.
Yes, and Liz put a comment in the chat to call your local hardware store as a resource too. But yes, most paint stores will take them. Habitat for Humanity will take them. And then there's also Metro, which is located, there's one that's in Northwest Portland and then one that's in Oregon City. And you can take paints, household chemicals, tires, Christmas lights. They have a whole host of things that can be recycled through Metro. We do have a Big Rocks recycling guide that offers some solutions for some of these trickier to recycle items. So we will send out a link to that in the follow-up email.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your question. What other questions do folks have?
Whitney, I have a question. Obviously, when people are moving, there's a lot to go through. Do you have any thoughts on storage units?
Yes.
And should people do that when they're not quite ready, or, what's your opinion on that?
Those could be a little tricky. We like storage units as organizers as a temporary solution. Like, let's say somebody is right-sizing and they're selling their home of many years, but maybe their new home isn't quite ready to move into yet. So maybe they need to be in an apartment or another space for a little while. But they've listed their house and it's sold and they got to get out now. So then we'll use a storage unit to help them through that transition. What I urge people to be cautious about is that storage unit that turns into the forever unit. We have worked with families that have had things in storage for over 40 years and they've paid $30,000 over those 40 years to store items that they have never visited since they originally stored them. Or family members who've inherited storage units from their parents or their loved ones. And Again, it's been a mystery unit because no one's visited the unit in 20, 30, 40 years. And so it's just kind of it's fun for our team to dig in, and it's a surprise to see what's there. But I urge caution. Does anyone on the Big Rocks team want to add to that or share anything else?
Yeah, that was one of the surprises of joining this company, to see things that had been in storage for half of somebody's life. And it just made me think, you probably don't need it. And I know it's hard to get rid of these things and it's out of sight, out of mind, but it just feels like just such a waste of money.
What other questions do folks have? So I try to keep an eye out for virtual hands or other hands.
I'm curious if maybe just in this room brainstorming, if anyone has thoughts or ideas of like, if you did have space for a china cabinet, but you didn't necessarily have a set of china that you wanted to display in it, what would be maybe another use for a china cabinet? Or have you seen people use them in other ways to organize different stuff?
Yeah, I've seen sweaters in china cabinets, which make kind of nice, colorful stripes. I've seen CDs, books,
Wine.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember who said it to me, but somebody told me that people were repurposing china hutches as terrariums, which is kind of a neat idea.
Very cool.
I'll make that today.
We are. We also had a client who repurposed a china hutch for storing her art supplies. Any other creative uses for a china hutch? Other
You
ideas?
could put your collection in there.
You sure could. You could display your collections.
I've also seen people, a lot of times china hutches come in two pieces. You know, it's got the drawers on the bottom and the glass shelves on the top. You can take it apart and then just use the drawers as a dresser, which can, take up a little less space, but you still have some storage. So
That's true. And Jocelyn from our team has repurposed parts of china hutches into gardening tables, like potting tables.
oh, really?
Benches. Uh-huh.
Nice.
Yeah. Thanks for the question, Karin. Does anyone else have a question?
I have another one with you that I can think of. You guys have had lots of experience helping me with my different closets and whatnot. What's a good time frame for people to think of? If they're home working on their own clothing closet, how much time does that really take?
Really depends on the person, on how many clothes you have, what your decision-making pace is, what your physical abilities are too. Some folks that we work with aren't able to stand for long periods of time, or maybe they have medical conditions and they get tired easily. So there's really no right or wrong. It depends on the person. And if it's a really big closet, I would chunk it down into, even short periods of time. Maybe I'm going to try on 2 things today and see if they still fit. Yeah. But then we've had clients who have a lot of energy in their game, and we can just really rock and roll through a closet and do the whole closet in 3 hours. So it really depends.
I would just add that for folks that do have trouble standing or even with attention for long periods of time and going through and trying to right size and organize, that's one of the reasons I really like the flipping the hanger method, because it just naturally weeds out the things that you're not wearing with no real effort on your part. It's just a quick, easy process to show you, hey, you haven't worn me in 6 months, time to go.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
and something that can be helpful too is to have a friend there. Social organizing can be a lot more fun for people, and it keeps you have that outside accountability, put some music on, keep the energy up. It's also helpful if you are a tactile person, if that's how you process, if you're kind of a hands-on learner, there's something called tactile sympathy. So if you touch an item when you're trying to make a decision about it, you're 60% more likely to keep it. So maybe enlist the help from somebody else to actually hold up that piece of clothing for you, or whatever the item is, hold it up for you so that you're not directly touching it.
Whitney, Connie Geist here. I just went through that process with a friend who, when I moved to my retirement community, put everything backwards with the hanger backwards. It took us 5.5 hours, but we started by pulling the 18 items that were still hooked forward out of the closet. And I'm one of those people that can't stand for very long, but we ended up with 68 items that we pulled out of that closet and donated to our in-house recycling, repurposing shop.
Nice. Great job, Connie. Way to go.
It really works.
Nice. I see we have some comments in the chat here. From Jane. Jane writes, speaking of old big brown furniture, I've seen old entertainment units painted and repurposed as play kitchens for kids' playrooms. That's a great idea, because yeah, those old entertainment centers are really hard to find a home for as well. Goodwill and Habitat, you generally don't accept those either. So I'm curious. Okay, old electronics. Jane put Free Geek in here, a link to a local nonprofit where different electronics can be rebuilt and repurposed, and especially computers, and given out to those in need. Awesome. Thank you, Jane.
Yeah, they're a great resource. Goodwill also takes broken electronics and they recycle them, any kind of e-waste.
E-waste, and it's free e-waste recycling.
I found an interesting store in the Rock Creek area over on Cornelius Pass. It's called Surplus Gizmos,
Yes.
and it's got just all kinds of electronic gadgets and gadgets and wires. And I even saw an old typewriter in there. They were selling for $100. They said it needs tweaking, but it works. And in fact, I have something to take over there this week. I just had a CD player that mechanically wasn't working very well. I had my son take it apart and take all the CDs out of it, and I'm taking it over to Surplus Gizmos. If somebody can do it, work on the mechanics, it's well worth repurposing. Oh, just thought I'd mention that. Surplus Gizmos.
Thank you. We'll add them to our resource list, Jean. I appreciate that. And that reminds me that this Saturday is Planet Con, and Saturday is Earth Day. So there are quite a few events going on in the community, but they have Repair Fair that's going to be at Planet Con, and it's going to be at PCC Rock Creek campus. But you can sign up and you can bring 1 or 2 electronic devices that need repair, and a volunteer will sit with you and repair it while you talk. So I'm going to bring my toaster oven, which has stopped working, and see if we can fix it rather than just recycle it or junk it.
Can you mention again where that is and what time?
Yes, it's at PCC Rock Creek campus. So it's on the west side. And then, but Repair Fair, they have events that happen throughout the year. So we can send you a link to their website, and we can put all the information about PlanetCon into a follow-up email, but I believe it's from 11 to 2 on Saturday.
Okay.
And they're taking a whole bunch of things: electronics, number 1 plastics, number 5 plastics. I think there's a swap where you can bring an item and take an item. So if you look up PlanetCon and go to the website, they have a full list of everything that they're taking on Saturday.
Oh, what is the first word that you're saying? It's not Comic Con. It's
Planet, Planet, Like,
PlanetCon, okay,
yeah, sorry, Planet Earth.
okay.
And they hold Planet Con once or twice a year in the Portland metro area, and the location changes. But it's a really big recycling event.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, I also discovered when I was working on something this week that the city of Tigard is having a free shredding day on April 20th from 9 to 12.
Mm,
And you can bring 2 standard paper grocery bags or boxes per household.
And the Raleigh Hills Business Association is holding one in Raleigh Hills too. So there's, okay, thank you. Jean, our assistant, put information in the chat about Planet Con. And
Oh, thank you.
Connie mentioned Scrap PDX as a favorite place to donate things. They take a lot of art supplies, but check out their website for the current criteria and donation hours. We have a question from Amy. What about old albums or CDs? There are some vinyl resale places. There's one on Canyon Road in 87th near the West Slope Post Office. I think it's called Exile Records, and they buy albums there. Otherwise, Goodwill will still take CDs and albums, or you can donate them to the library for their twice yearly sale, the Hillsborough Public Library, or whatever your local library is.
Hmm.
Any other thoughts about albums and CDs? We've even had clients who still have 8 tracks, which I thought was kind of fun. A question in the chat, any suggestion for how to deal with inherited art painted by a beloved family member that is not to your taste? I'm curious if the beloved family member lives nearby and comes over to your house often. Any more info, Jane?
Can talk from personal experience. My father-in-law was a painter, and terrible. And we used to hang up paintings when he came over, which luckily wasn't often because at the time they lived in California and we lived in New York, but you know, we would have to scramble to put things up before he came. It's just it's hard, you know, you're torn with guilt. You want to put something up, but it's also your home. So it's not an easy thing.
It is. Jane added that the beloved family member is deceased, but there is guilt.
Yeah.
One thing that I think of is, I mean, sometimes this wouldn't be helpful, but I know sometimes when I've had things, or even if I just like kind of got sick of it or found something that I wasn't so sure about inherited, just switching up like the framing or the matting and the way that it's presented can sometimes really make a difference in how I'm looking at it. Because sometimes like it's really visually busy with like a green mat and a gold frame and a this and that. So I think sometimes having something almost more like it's a diorama than the way it was originally presented, and sort of like zoom out in a big white frame with a white mat or something sometimes changes the way that I look at something. That's not always going to do the trick, but it could change your perspective on the thing.
That's a really good idea. Thank you, Karin.
I also think that we can do our loved ones more justice by sending their artwork to somebody whose style it does fit, that will hang it and appreciate it. And that memory is living on beyond us, which, you know, adds a little sentiment to it. And you can always take photos of the items that, you know, don't fit your decor and still have the memory of what was passed to you without having to feel obligated to hang it.
Thanks, Jess. Very good point. So hopefully that helps Jane a little bit. Leilani has shared a resource in the chat that there's a Free Geek event this Friday, April 19th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Washington Square Mall. And Connie shared a resource that Music Millennium on East Burnside Street has taken or bought vinyl records. And Jane says, thank you for the ideas of how to deal with art. I'm curious if anybody else has any last resources or questions for the group today. Well, I hope today was helpful for everybody. We do have some additional.
Whitney, I think Sonia had a question.
Sorry, yes. Oh, there's a.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Any sort of direction on like file cabinets and file folder divider tabs, organization, by color, by row, I just feel like I've got a lot of files and probably I need to pitch a bunch, but any sort of guidance on file cabinets?
Yes, here's a kind of quick and dirty overview for you.
Okay.
So just remember that 80% of those papers we file, we never go back and look at again. So try to be ruthless. Don't worry about color coding because that can be a barrier. Whether they're drab army green or red or whatnot, you don't want to put anything in place that's going to break your system.
Okay.
And also, if you align all the tabs down one side, it's easier for your eye to find things. So rather than, left, middle, right, or 5 tabs across, just have everything justified so that your eye can find things more quickly.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And we do have a blog about doing files and different resources too. So we'd be happy to send that out in the follow-up email.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your question. Thanks for coming today. Thanks,
good.
everybody. So next month we'll be returning to our regular time. It's going to be Wednesday, May 1st from 4 to 5 p.m. on Zoom. And May 20th is World Organizing Day. So in honor of that, we're actually doing it on May 1st, but we'll just be taking organizing questions in advance and live at the event. So anything under the sun related to organizing or what we do as organizers, we'd be happy to have you join us and ask your questions. So thank you again for sharing part of your sunny day with us. We really appreciate it, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all so much. You always are such a wealth of information, so thank you.
Thanks, Amy, for co-sponsoring today and for partnering with us. We love working with you.
Great.